We want these stories to whisper, you've got what it takes. You can do this. It's in you already. And whether it's in you by blood, DNA, or if it's in you because you've been taught by great leaders, or because this is who we have a picture on the wall of, an Abraham Lincoln or whoever it is, you can do difficult things.
So the title for our podcast today is Resilience Runs in This Family, teaching teens to draw strength from pioneers, heroes, and role models. And I've got Roxanne here with me today because this is the thing that gets her excited, probably more than anything else, family history and looking back at these stories and finding strength from that. So Roxanne, thanks for helping us focus on something that we think will really inspire a lot of people.
Well, I think that you're lucky I didn't just grab the mic and just start talking immediately. I feel so much emotion around this because my parents are gone and my dad was a historian and I graduated in history as well, a high school history teacher. And I just know the power of stories. I started a publishing company to help people write their stories. And I'm so excited when it's Pioneer Day in Utah because we actually shut down banks. We shut down our work at Trustee because we want to focus on the most important thing, which is our family and the work that we do in raising our children intentionally to be the best, strongest people that they can be. And so when we decided that this is what we were going to talk about today, to share with the rest of the world the wonderful thing about Pioneer Day, the great part about it is that it doesn't matter if you had ancestors who came across the plains to the Wild West to settle a desert and make it blossom like a rose, like you and I did, because everybody has pioneers, role models, and people that they can look up to as heroes in their life that they can emulate. We are excited today to talk about this because you might be sitting there going, I don't have any of that. But you have grit. Your teens have grit. They have resilience. And it might be in small ways, but that's why we are intentionally going to highlight this today, is because we want them to build it and bring it out. And it just becomes part of the family narrative. It is part of your culture, whether there's a divorce in the family, an adoption, a foster child, whatever the situation is, you can use the power of story to build their courage, their resilience, and their hope for the future.
Yeah, let me build on that a little bit. The things that we focus on, we get more of, and we can draw strength from focusing on other people's strengths. Yes, we could focus on their failures and all that and how they recovered. That's actually their strength. But identifying that quality, that characteristic existed in that person. They overcame incredible challenges in their life. And for those reasons, they do become role models. Where did our strengths come from? Some of it comes from our DNA, but a lot of it's just from being inspired by different people, either in our heritage or people that we've heard of in history. And so I had that experience just today because this was the topic. I, looked into my family history a little bit. I went on to Family Search and went back a few generations and picked someone, and he had a short bio there of his life. And it was amazing how I felt afterwards just thinking, he's in my family.
Why don't you
I'm
just
a
go
descendant.
Just go ahead and tell the story. On the way here in the car, he was telling me, and I reached over and I was driving and I said, did you just get teary? And he said, I did. I'm like, why did you get teary? So go ahead and share this quick story.
Yeah. So this ancestor is from Glasgow, Scotland. That's where he was born, just outside Glasgow. Back in the early 1800s, John Johnson Thayne, very poor, came from a very poor background. His father died when he was 3. And from those trials and tribulations they had, he developed quite the character. And ultimately, he immigrated here to the United States, and they came across the plains, as you'd see a lot of the pioneers back in the mid-1800s. He ultimately created settled in Salt Lake area and up the canyon in Mill Creek, not far from where we're at, up in Salt Lake. There's a canyon called Thayne Canyon to this day. And it was named after him because he settled there and he created a sawmill. There was a small stream that went through there with a large canyon, lots of timber, and he was there for many years. He ultimately shut down the sawmill there and moved to Summit County in Utah. And shortly afterwards, other people moved into his spot there in Mill Creek, and they struck gold right where his mill was. They struck gold. And so can you imagine, finding out you were sitting on gold and you're laboring away at sawing these logs in lumber. And when he heard the story of the gold being struck, his immediate response was, they're welcome to it. I'm a sawmill man. And so this incredible grace with disappointment. In spite of the disappointment, I'm sure he'd have loved to have the gold, but he didn't show that. And that's what touched me. It was like his natural response was to be happy for them and that he was secure in who he was and what he was doing.
Beautiful. That leads us to our first point. And parents, if you're taking notes, the first point we want you to write down is tell family stories often and with emotion. And you did a great job with that, telling that story. And the emotion was real. And, as I was listening to this, I'm all about marketing and I'm all about being a cheerleader and leading out in the family. And when I heard that, they're welcome to it. I'm a sawmill man. I'm like, can we put that on the wall somewhere? Because we have disappointments every day. It's hard. It's hard out there in the work that you're doing, not just in your career, but especially in your family. But that's okay. We can bounce back and we can show that resilience that we want to teach our children. Mm-hmm. So
I was just upstairs with our kids. Many of them work here at Film Lab, and we're going to meet tomorrow with our family on Pioneer Day and talk about our family and probably our ancestors and things like that. And all I did was just give them a little bit of, hey, tomorrow we're going to talk about some ancestors that is so inspiring. And they just kind of lit up. And I said, Mom's going to lead this podcast. And, of course, she's all over it. And they're like, yeah. So, I think just in a way, just kind of helping them anticipate that's exciting, that's inspiring. It's going to help lift us tomorrow.
Yeah, there will be food. That's always number one. Yeah. And then there will be stories. One of the points that we want to make is when you're telling family stories often and with emotion, you're not going to just save these for at their funeral or at a real structured family reunion. You want to share these stories just in the here and there and when it just comes up. And I saw something that reminded me of this. And, at Christmas time this year, I had taken down in one room of the house a bunch of pictures I had on the wall, and they sat in piles upstairs for about 4 years, just collecting dust. Then at Christmas time, had my sister come over and help me start to build a photo wall, and then Tim worked with me for a couple more nights, and we got this whole alcove area upstairs at the top of the stairs wrapped in family history pictures. And just every frame I could buy from the dollar store or pull old photos out of it, we put it up there. And it is awesome. That word is so overused, but it is awesome. I can't wait to get sick so I can go flop down on the couch upstairs and turn one way and just look at all the memories, and then flip around on the couch and look at the other side of the room and think of all of those memories, because they remind me what a blessed and happy life I have, and these people that have gone before who have smoothed the path for me.
You give me an idea.
Yeah.
We've kind of one-on-one, individually gone up there and enjoyed the photos, and maybe with one other person in the family. We haven't done it with all of our kids. Mm-hmm. I think that could be a little bit of what we do tomorrow. Just real quick, go up there, take a little tour.
That's a great idea.
And kind of set the stage.
Yeah. So another quickie idea is just to take a picture of a photo in an album or on a wall and text it out to your child or your whole family and say, I just came across this picture. It reminded me of you. This is where they came from. This is what they did. Grandpa landed here not knowing how he was going to make it when he came to the United States or whatever. And you can do it too in college this next fall. Mm-hmm. I believe in you. His blood runs through you. You are resilient. Yeah. You are going to do it.
The word identity is interesting to me because you think about identify is related to that word identity. And if we can identify with connecting the dots to their resilience and our own, all of a sudden now we have resources and strengths that we didn't before. Just by identifying it, now it's becoming part of our identity. It's a powerful concept.
Right. If you tell a story about the resilience of John Johnson Thayne and just saying, hey, good for them, I'm a sawmill man, then our kids can use that same quote when things don't go their way.
Yeah.
I want to just share a story. These stories of heroes and models and pioneers, they don't have to be the stories of your ancestors being the hero. It can be your ancestors learning a life lesson. So I'm just going to share a quick story. My dad was in college, very poor, worked at the dairy products lab, washing milk bottles back in the day. And he loved that job because he could get one meal a day and he lived on cheese basically. But he said he went home and all he could afford was peanut butter sandwiches to live off of. And he had a college roommate who was way better off financially, and he would be cooking steak. And my dad would just be so hungry smelling the steak in the place. But my dad one day was feeling sorry for himself, making a sandwich. And another roommate, a different roommate, came in and said, Jeff, do you mind if I have a sandwich I haven't eaten in 2 days? And my dad absolutely shared and quit his complaining in his mind. And I think that that's just a simple story that just shares the point that you don't know what other people are going through. There is always someone with less, and you need to be generous instead of just, craving or being jealous of what others have.
Yeah. I wanted to share a quick story. One of the people I identify with a lot is my grandpa, Harry Taylor Thayne. Since I was a little boy, I was told you look like little Harry when he was young. And so I've identified with him kind of physically, like I look like him. But I watched him a lot because I thought maybe I'd grow up to be kind of like him. And I'd watch him and see what he was doing, and there were a lot of things that really stood out to me that were very pioneer-like. He was born in 1919, but it's almost like his life was, set in a very, back a few decades, because they were always using horses, and even though there were machines, they were poor. They didn't have that, so it was a lot of horsepower that was used, things like that. But he had such grit and determination and independence that when he finally moved in with my mom and dad after his wife had passed, and he continued to take care of himself for a few years, he finally, very reluctantly, moved in with my parents. But he never stopped working. He never stopped trying to dress himself and everything else. And he would find innovative ways to get things done. One of the fun stories that depicts him quite well is the cows got out, and my dad wasn't around to put them back in, so he got on the four-wheeler. And you remember, Grandpa didn't have much use of his hips and knees. They were, worn out, and he was basically crippled in a lot of ways. But he got on the four-wheeler, went out to put them back in. He didn't come home for quite a while. So when my dad arrived back home, my mom told him that his father had been out longer than he should be. So he went out looking for him. He found him actually on the side hill of this mountain, and he had rolled the four-wheeler, and it was on top of him. And he had somehow managed, he couldn't breathe, he had managed to get his pocket knife out of his pocket and dig a hole for his chest to be able to expand so he could get the air that he needed. He'd been there for, quite a while, an hour, 2 hours, who knows. But his heart was racing. Anyway, he was banned from the four-wheeler by my dad. A couple of months later, by the way, he refused to go to the hospital. He just kind of stuck it out and survived. But a couple of months later, some guys were there visiting with my parents, and they asked my dad, or my grandpa, "So Harry, have you been riding the four-wheeler lately?" And he said, "Oh yeah." And Dad said, "No, you haven't. I know right where I parked that four-wheeler, and you haven't moved it." And he said, "Don't you think I know where you put it, and I can put it back basically. So while you're gone. So I from that, just his grit, his, independence, and nothing really could stop him. Yeah. And I try to identify with that.
Well, this is an interesting point that I think parents can use. Sometimes it's easier for our kids to hear stories of people outside of their parents. If we're always tooting our own horn or saying, I learned this, they think they've heard it, they're done. But if it's a little bit removed, it's easier to idolize. It's easier to want to adopt that because grandpa wasn't the one doing the disciplining or the one making the hard things happen or whatever. They can just have that affection for grandparents. I mean, there's all kinds of studies about the power of a grandparent. Mm-hmm. And so maybe just hold back on some of your stories and share the stories of the people they have no resistance to.
Parents, since college, my passion has been to help families thrive. For decades after, my team and I delivered the premier in-home aftercare, but it could be costly, and too many families were left without support. That's why we created Trusty, a unique blend of proven curriculum, personalized coaching, and intuitive technology. Starting at just $129 a month, you can access tools and expertise to get and keep your family on track at a fraction of what we used to have to charge. Like we always say, help things go right before they can go wrong. Visit trusty.com, spelled with 2 Y's, to learn more and subscribe today.
The number 2 on this is to create a legacy board or digital timeline. Now, we just talked about the photo wall we just created in our home, and we talked about sharing texts and pictures that way. But you can get your kids involved in this kind of work of learning more about their family. The resources have never been like they are today. I mean, the research I do, I got a notice from Family Search saying we don't have your grandmother's burial date. I'm able to get on and find this stuff because it's all right there at the click of a button. And you can find these things and learn more. And, they were buried in the veterans area of the cemetery or whatever it is. So get your kids involved. They can use things like Canva. They can put together a slide presentation with Google Slides and teach you about your family or tell a story about somebody that's maybe not even family. And let's move to role models a little bit here. So in our family, my dad loved Churchill. So we talk about Churchill. We named our dog Churchill. We just love the impact that he had on the world and on the freedoms that we enjoy today. Another one in our family was a Holocaust survivor, Edie Eager, who is still alive to this day. She's in her 90s. She's written books. She's been on Oprah, but she also was in my home sleeping in my bed when I was growing up. Mm-hmm. So we know her personally, and we talk about the resilience that she showed, the courage, the work for education, the love. Yeah. I mean, you follow this woman around just wanting to touch her because she's just so loving and kind and generous.
Yeah.
So you can find other people that you can have your kids learn about and say, this is a family value. We value this generosity, this love, whatever it is. I know we're saying the same values over and over, but if you need a list of values, we're going to put it in the show notes below. We've got a list that you can print out, and that can spark ideas for you about, honesty. That's what our family's about. Mm-hmm. Or, gathering. We're super hosts. We love to have people around. We're fun people. Yeah. You can find those kinds of things, but get your kids involved in that.
I want to say something real quick about values. We're so inundated with negative things in the world. Yeah. And, the media people consume, the standards and things like that are out there. We need to be really putting out there the positive stuff, the things that lift and enlighten and bring light and joy to life and peace. And values is a way to do that. Whether you have a spiritual value system, if you're a faith-based person or not, think about the values. And they will lift, they will bring that into their life. And that's why we love to look at some of these past heroes and things, because they exhibit these characteristics that are something to be sought after.
Yeah.
And that will do that. So yeah, we'll put the values
document up there.
And it's a website, right, that we've created.
It's not on the webpage right now, but it's a document they can print out. Yeah, we want these stories to whisper, you've got what it takes. You can do this. It's in you already. And whether it's in you by blood, DNA, or if it's in you because you've been taught by great leaders, or because this is who we have a picture on the wall of, an Abraham Lincoln or whoever it is, you can do difficult things. Yesterday, because it was going to be Pioneer Day, we let our team know that we were not going to be working tomorrow for Pioneer Day, and we posted some pictures, and our pioneer ancestors, they look so dang tired. And I know that Tim and I most days look like that. We feel so tired. But we reached out to our team, and most of our team is in Brazil, and we asked them if they would share some of their stories. And I just want to share what Lawani shared with us. She probably put up about 4 or 5 pictures, and it was so delightful to know her on a different level, other than she's just wonderful at what she does.
What you could see, and you'll see this as Roxanne reads some of her statements, is her great love and admiration for her ancestry. And it just was contagious.
Yeah.
When I read it, I couldn't help but just heart everything that she put on there.
Yeah, it's beautiful. She says, in my family, photos of grandparents in earlier generations are rare, as most of my ancestors were either indigenous or Portuguese settlers without access to photography. But I take great pride in my roots and feel immense gratitude for the hard work of those who came before me and helped build the city of São Jose, where many of them lived and where I lived my entire life. But to celebrate the pioneers of my life, I absolutely give all honor to my parents, who were pioneers in so many ways within their own families. My father was the first in his family to have the courage to leave behind a life of deep poverty in the countryside of our state and serve as a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. That decision completely changed his life, and as a result, mine too. And she sent a picture. Here's a photo of him as a missionary in Rio de Janeiro. He's the stylish guy in the glasses, already showing the fun, outgoing spirit he has to this day. Here he is with his brothers, taking a break from working on the farm, just 2 days after returning home from his mission. He's the one looking up into the sky. He tells us this photo was captured the exact moment he was looking up and thinking, Lord, what am I doing here? The very next day, he left home again to try his luck in the capital city. He spent a few days living on the streets and was lovingly helped by dear friends from the church who gave him a place to stay and food to eat when he had nothing. And I was just thinking about Luani and thinking, after she did that for our team last night, she probably shared those stories again with the kids. She probably had those photos handy and could share those with the kids. And these kids know the grandparents. They know that grandma's beautiful still. They know grandpa's fun and thinks he's a cool guy. And they identify with coolness. That's my grandpa. And look at him looking up into the sky, just praying, what am I doing? So anyway, I know that this is just a story of one person that means so much, but I hope your mind is being flooded and your heart is being flooded with the stories that are yours, because yours are just as powerful, just as important. And your teens, even though they don't want to talk about a lot of things, they are hungry for identity and hungry for purpose in their lives and hungry for stories of how they can make it. Your belief in them at this stage in their life, it's everything. You can't relieve everything they're feeling. You can't relieve depression, anxiety, bullying. You can't do it all, but you can be continuous in your belief of them.
Here's the other thing that parents really struggle with. We have too, and that is that we want to build up the self-esteem and the confidence of our kids. We want them to, we compliment them a lot. And most of the time, our compliments will just roll right off their back. It doesn't really sink in. They don't believe it, because we maybe we're always complimenting them. But sometimes if they can identify with something else, say, I'm like that, now that's real. It starts to actually become part of who they are. And so if you're struggling if your compliments are just rolling off their back, it's not really having an impact, this is another route in to help them develop that identity of resilience and strength and whatever those values are that you see in them, that you want them to notice that are real.
Well, help them understand that it's also, there's a seed of it in them. You know, it may not be full blown yet. And this is number 3 that we want you to write down. Invite them to be pioneers themselves. This is still an embryo. You know, a lot of times we're telling stories of 60-year-olds and they're 17 going, I don't get it. I'll never reach that. But they can. I was thinking there's so many different ways that you can find ways to point out what they are good at. Wow, you are so natural with children. You would make a great teacher. Or you are so ingenious in how you put things together, and you just get in there and you figure everything out for our technology. We're so grateful for you. That reminds me of your grandpa, who could build anything out of anything. He built a boat out of a VW bug. I mean, and this is a true story, but we won't go there now. But, there's just so many ways that you can kind of tie in what you're seeing in their entrepreneurial spirit, in their woodworking skills, in their roller skating, in their quest for knowledge, that you can work into, hey, you remind me of so-and-so. Give them the story. If you have a picture, give them the picture. And then tell these stories often. You can give empowerment to your children. You can empower them to take next steps, because that's what we do in this family. Mm-hmm. This is our culture. This is our mission. We make waves in this world. We are pioneers. Mm-hmm. I just want to share one quote, Tim, that I thought was beautiful. This is from, I'm going to slaughter the name, Gurinder Chadha, but he says, "I am not afraid to be a pioneer. When a door is ajar, you need to open it fully. And once you are in that room, you need to see what other doors there might be and where they might lead." Isn't that great?
I like it. We live in a society, a context where challenges and trials are often seem maybe insurmountable, or we may talk to our kids like, "I'm sorry you're going through all this." What if we flipped that around and really saw that as those challenges and trials is actually just the fodder for their strengths that are going to come out? That because you're going through this right now, you are going to ultimately achieve what you need to. You're going to get through this. And just like your ancestor, or just like this person, that's building the foundation for the next thing you're going to do. And so we have to sometimes be the one to help them connect and reframe what challenges are doing to them. Not that it's making them a victim, or that they now have all these mental health challenges and they're always going to have those. It's there's a way out. And I think seeing the stories of some of these heroes and role models and people in our ancestry, we can see that they did it. So we can. Another thing I wanted to say real quick is, it goes back to that, how do they start to see it in themselves? One
of the things that, we have tried to do in our family is to instill a feeling of you can do hard physical things. And we started that with just little races, 5Ks on 4th of July freedom runs and things like that. But as the kids have gotten older and now they're all young adults, we want to continue that going. We want the grandkids to join us in those freedom runs every year, whether we're pushing a stroller or they're walking back there with grandma or whatever. We want them to feel like this is just what we do. And one of my favorite sayings, ones that my kids hate the most, is think of the pioneers. If they ever complain, I'm always like, think of the pioneers. You can do this. This is not too hard.
And that's probably your number one quote. And they know it's coming, too.
I know.
They know it's coming.
In fact, we're having this breakfast tomorrow, and I said it's going to be from 6 a.m. to 8:30, and do not tell me you're tired. Just think of the pioneers, But anyway, last weekend, we did something really fun as a family. Tim and all of the boys and the brother-in-law all did the Spartan Beast, which is a half marathon with 30 obstacles up here at a ski resort in Utah. And it was awful. Do you want to share a little bit about it, your experience?
Well, the hard part about it was we had, you want to kind of overcome all those obstacles over the period of time that you have to run. It was a half marathon, up hills, a lot of vertical. And what they did is they saved a bunch of them for the
10.
very end. 10 of them, 10 of the 30 was the last mile. It was one after the other, and many of them were the hardest of the whole thing when you're totally exhausted. And it was a huge trial to get over, and get through all those obstacles.
But the point that was most important, I think, is it took 7.5 hours, which it shouldn't have, but one of our sons got injured, got a concussion. But the point was not the speed, it was doing it together.
Yeah.
And you finished together. And the smiles and the dirt and the grit, which is still coming out of their hair today, it reminded them of the teamwork and the camaraderie, and that we can do hard things if we do it together. Nobody was left behind.
And I give Roxanne credit here too, because she, years ago, she had cancer, and that really changed her life. She decided that every day matters, and I'm going to kind of live it more to the fullest. I'm going to be the number one educator of my kids, you know, and so she also decided to have a home birth at that time. And one of the things that as we were going through the classes to learn how to do a good home birth, we were told to kind of find something that would give us strength, that would enable us to kind of a focal point. And interestingly, we have this little picture of of the pioneers who were coming across and actually got stuck in a snowstorm. And it's of this little campfire. It's a very small picture, but basically some of the stories where women were having babies along the trail, that they were going through incredible hardships, but they were making it. And she chose this picture that, to me, was like, that's not a happy place. That just, to me, kind of brings up all this trial and sacrifice and pain, in some cases death, because they didn't make it. But to you, it was a symbol of strength, and something that gave you strength to go through that non-medicated, natural childbirth. I was amazed, and to me, that's part of the legacy that I believe you're leaving in our family, and it's just amazing to see that you gained that from focusing on them. That enabled you to do it as well, and now the next generation, they're doing it too.
Well, thank you. I just wish that we were sitting across from you parents in a living room and just getting to visit and hear your stories. You've had to listen to all of ours, but the reason we shared so many of them today is because we hope that you will have ideas spark in your mind of the stories that you have heard over the years and the ones that you want to capture and write deliberately to show your child that you believe in them and that they are resilient, that this runs in our family, and I've seen it in you.
I'm hoping it'll also inspire you to go and do some research. If you don't know some of the stories and need to get to know some of the ancestors in your family tree, or others that you can really leverage in your life in these times. We live in hard times, different hard than some of our ancestors, but hard nonetheless, and we need a lot of the, bounce back, the resilience, the faith, and all those things that enabled them to get through their trials. We need them today. So do the research you need so you have access to it and you can share that with your families.
Pick up the phone, call your mom. She'll know a lot more of those stories than you do. Or you can get on things like Family Search and see what other people have written about your ancestors. Have a great day.
Take care.